Hey, Carrie.
Hey, Ripper. Good Friday.
Yeah, happy June 16th to you. Happy
Likewise.
Friday. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day, great summer. You know what? Let us know. Drop in the comment section if you got plans for a vacation this summer and what you're planning on doing. And the reason why I ask is because today I want to talk to you about a Alaskan cruise that I just went on through the inner passage of Alaska. We started in Seward and ended in Vancouver. It was absolutely dreamy. But I want to tell you a little bit about that cruise that we went on, and then of course let's talk about how we were able to keep it Plantstrong while on a cruise, and then when we did excursions in the different towns that we went into, how we were able to make that happen. And I can't tell you how great it was, but also how wonderful it feels to be back home, even though it is 103 degrees in Austin, Texas today. Perry, do you know the highs in Alaska, I think, were maybe 62. It was brilliant.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's like here in Oregon right now. I think highs in the 70s. We're actually getting a cold front here in Bend this weekend where the highs only going to be in the mid 50s. But sun shining, so I'm not going to complain about that, especially knowing back home in Austin where it is 107 degrees. And can I just say early happy Father's Day to you, Rip? I think that we all embrace all of our father figures in the Esselstyn family, including your father, Essie, you, and we all look up to you, in that way. But just happy Father's Day. I hope the kids are going to do something amazing for you. But I bet it's going to start with a breakfast, isn't it? It's going to start with your usual breakfast.
It will. It will start with me making pancakes, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But no, thank you. Yeah, this Sunday is Father's Day, and we'll see what everybody whips up. So I'm just looking here. So it looks like Shawnee Kennedy says Vancouver is amazing. It really is amazing. There's something about. Have you ever been to Vancouver, Carrie?
I have, but only to fly in. I've been to like Victoria Island.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Victoria Island's very radical as well.
Yes.
But Vancouver, it's got beautiful architecture. It's on the water. And then literally like miles away, you have mountains, which is to me, it's very unusual. You don't usually see mountains and water like oceans right, next door to each other. Mm-hmm. The only other place that I remember that being very, very brilliant was Santa Barbara, California.
Yep. Yeah. I was going to say California has that coastline.
Yeah.
With even in the Los Angeles, Calabasas area where you've got the mountains near there and that go right into the ocean. Yeah. And Oregon has a beautiful coast. It's not, I wouldn't say mountains, but it can get pretty hilly on the coast of Oregon too, and Washington.
Yeah. And so I'm looking here, like Marley did an Alaska cruise in 2003. So let me talk a little bit about Alaska, and then we can get into the food. But have you ever been to Alaska, Carrie?
No. Dream trip.
Well, yeah. I highly recommend, put it on your bucket list.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody out there as well that if you don't mind traveling and you want to go someplace that's absolutely pristine, just wilderness like you've never seen before, mountains, waterfalls, lakes, rivers. I mean, waterfalls coming down the sides of almost every mountain that you see as far as the eye can see. Wildlife that is just pure and raw and there all over the place, then I would highly recommend you try Alaska. This is my second trip to Alaska. My first trip to Alaska, Carrie, I went in 1984.
Oh, wow.
I went with my brother. We were there for almost 2 months. And I had just finished up the Olympic trials in swimming. I did not make the Olympic team. And so I had really no plans for the rest of the summer. And so my brother and we went to Alaska. We spent a little while working in a fishing cannery. Oh, it was just absolutely awful.
That sounds terrible.
I was what's called a slimer. So I would basically pull the guts out of these salmon. And the salmon are on ice. So you're wearing gloves, but your gloves get wet and frozen within a matter of 5 minutes. And your shift is almost an hour. So literally you're working with numb, super cold hands for almost an hour. And then you get a 10-minute break. I did that for 7 days, made almost $1,000. And then I'm like, let's see Alaska.
We got to do something else. Yeah. Yeah.
So we put out our thumbs and we hitchhiked around all over. And the funny thing is, to my recollection, and remember, that was almost 30 years ago now, it hasn't changed that much. And I think it's because it is so remote. It's, for the most part, very difficult to get to. And it takes a special breed of person to, I think, reside in Alaska because it is so remote and unique in so many ways.
Yeah. Were you able to escape some of the tourism areas, or because you were on, no. You probably fell prey to some of that, not fell prey, but you had to be a part of that.
No, listen, no, we had a front row seat to tourism at its best. Yeah. And it wasn't that over the top, to tell you the truth. But, I mean, these little towns that we went into, and I'll talk about them, they are thriving because of the cruise ships. And they were like paralyzed, very much hurt during COVID when the cruises weren't happening. But I think I heard a number like 70% of, these little towns that we went into, their income is generated from the cruise ships and everything associated with it.
Sure.
Yeah. But we still, I mean, again, it didn't seem like ridiculously commercialized, and we loved it. So our first stop, so we flew into Anchorage, and in order to fuel ourselves, the night before, I made about 6 tofu spinach sandwiches. Mine had a little bit of sriracha sauce on them. Some had hummus, and then some were just plain, right? Because we got a mix with five people in the family. And then I also made 5 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Perfect. And because I know people will ask, what kind of bread did you use? Did you use Dave's Killer Bread, or
I used a combination of Ezekiel and also Dave's Killer Bread.
Okay. Yeah. And I know the one that we like a lot it's green. There's several different kinds of Dave's Killer Bread out there, and they're all quite good. But the one that's like a bright green, Kelly green on the wrapper is the one that we like a lot. And
is it have you heard this too, that Dave's Killer Bread is made by like former prison inmates?
Well, Dave, yes, until he sold it and became a billionaire, I'm sure. But I did hear this story on the show How I Built This a couple years ago. Actually, it was a podcast called How I Built This, and the host Guy Raz interviewed Dave, and that is his story. Is he was was kind of a little thug growing up and spent some time in prison, but was always a baker and knew how to bake bread, and everybody loved his bread. So, yep, that is true.
And why is it called Killer? Just
I don't want to know. I'm just going to go with the fact that it's great. It tastes killer.
Yeah, hopefully Dave isn't in prison for killing someone.
I'm not going down that route. Honestly, I think I would remember that detail. I don't remember why he was in prison. I don't think it was that. But
I'm looking at some of the comments. Marley corrected me. You're right. 1984 to now, it's 40 years, not 30 years. Where's the time gone? Help me.
Well, and that was before you and your family made the switch, wasn't it? It was about the time that your father.
Oh, 1984. No,
Yeah.
yeah, my father had literally was just kind of trying to get his initial cohort of 22 patients. So it was like kind of a sparkle in his eye in 1984, and that was about it. Okay. So yeah, back then I had not seen the light, so to speak.
Okay. Well, back to your food. And I feel like that's something to really hone in on for people who are always asking, how can they make travel work? And I think the first point here to just talk about is preparation. You prepared food in advance so that you didn't get to an airport and go, why do they only have turkey and nasty, gross stuff, which I've run into myself before. But
I did, so I did a couple things, and people, I want to say up front, I know that the Ribs Big Bowl commercialized cereal is out of stock right now. We're having our first production run today, so we should have some back in stock next week. But I happen to have a stash in my freezer, so I took some Ribs Big Bowl cereal. And I also had that in the airport. I got some oat milk from one of the coffee places and poured that in there. So in the airport, even though we had a 6 a.m. departure, right? I had my cereal. You'd be amazed how fast 10 sandwiches can go with a family of 5. Luckily, our youngest doesn't have the hugest appetite, so there was enough for all of us. And between the 5 tofu hummus sandwiches, the tofu spinach sandwiches, the peanut butter and jellies, and then the oranges, and then also I took like 6 bananas that amazingly did not get scrunched up. We were good until we got to Alaska. So it was basically like almost a 4-hour flight to Seattle. Then we had a quick layover, and then we had a little 2.5-hour flight to Anchorage. And then we had a quick turnaround where we had to get on a little shuttle, 2-hour shuttle to Seaward. And on that shuttle ride, we saw a mother moose with her 2 babies. We saw bald eagles, and we saw Bigfoot.
Wow. Cue Disney World. They hit the button and all the things came out. You saw Bigfoot. Wow.
Well, it was a fake Bigfoot, but there he was, this huge carve out that was off in the forest, and the bus driver, pointed it out to us. And there you can see on your left is Bigfoot, and there he was.
Fake news, Rip. Fake news.
Yeah. But so we boarded that the cruise ship, and we were on a Norwegian cruise. It was a little ship called the Jewel. It held about 2,300 passengers at capacity. I think we had like 1,800 on this trip. And for those of you that have never been on a cruise, it's kind of remarkable just being on this floating city that has restaurants. They've got pools. They've got all these cabins. Fortunately, we had one that looked out. It had a balcony onto the water. We were pretty high up on deck 11.
Oh my gosh.
I know. They had a theater that held over 1,200 people. And every night they had shows. They had lounges. They had bars. They had game rooms, an arcade, fitness, gym. So you were never at a loss for something to do. Although sometimes there was nothing nicer than going back to your room and just chilling out and reading.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stimulus. I have never taken a cruise, and the main reason, well, there's 2 main reasons that we always joke. Like, one is that I always joke that's like, I'll save my cruise for when I can't, or maybe I'm unable to do a lot of adventuring and adventure seeking and hiking and biking and things like that. But then quite honestly, the real reason why I've never taken a cruise is that I'm deathly afraid of being seasick. I'm very prone to it. And for as many people who tell me, oh, you don't feel a thing, these ships are big, you won't feel it, I have the equal amount of people tell me, oh yeah, get the patches, get everything that you can, because you're going to be ill.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because this is a really wild story. So before we went, Jill was concerned about that exact same thing. So she bought the patches, she bought the little wrist, pressure point, all that stuff. We got on the ship, we found our cabin. Everybody was starving, so we went to this place called the Garden, which is where we had more meals than anything else. And I was there with Cole, and we're just looking at all these different options, buffet after buffet after buffet. And then all of a sudden I turn around, and Jill, my wife, and my two daughters, Sophie and Hope, weren't there. And so I went and I walked, and there was Hope walking out of the restaurant. She went out onto the deck and all of a sudden vomited all in her hands, right?
Oh.
And I'm like, wow. And then Jill's like, yeah, she was tugging my shirt saying, Mommy, I don't feel well. And we hadn't even left the dock. We were still docked, right? But just a little bit of that, this was enough where Hope, 9 years old, and that was the only issue we had the whole trip with any seasickness.
Oh, Hope is my soul sister. That is every fear of mine come true right there in a nutshell. Yeah. And I'm afraid that would plague me for the entire trip. So I know, Marley, I'm trying to muster the courage. There's an 80s cruise next spring that I want to take that has like all these bands from the 1980s, including my favorite, Debbie Gibson. And I still can't, and I used to worship her, and I still can't bring myself to go on this cruise.
Well, you're even a swimmer of sorts.
Yeah.
And the thing is, because one of the things that Hope was afraid of was, well, what if, because we'd seen the Titanic a couple months ago,
right?
And she was afraid, what if we sink? And the thought of being out in the middle of the ocean, and this water was cold, like in the 30s, right? And I said, listen, there are all these lifeboats, 24. You do the math on it. Well, 22. Each one holds 150 people.
Wow.
And I said, if something happens, we're going to be fine. And they're all enclosed. They've got motors. I don't know how they fit 150 people in one, because it looks really small, but I was fascinated by that. But I assured Hope we would be fine.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, we would be fine.
Yeah. No, those are some real fears. So I always like to play like the person who's the voice of reason here, of like, yeah, that sounds great, but
yeah. Oh, but let me tell you, so there's different ways that you can handle the food on some of these cruise ships. You can do you can upgrade to this package where you can eat at any restaurant as much as you want. It doesn't cost you anything, but that was a little over the top. So we decided to do it more a la carte. So you can eat at this one restaurant called the Garden as much as you want for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? It's all you can eat buffets, which is kind of problematic because sometimes you just have a hard time stopping. But we walked in, and the first thing that they had was this incredible spread of lettuces, vegetables, salads, and things of that nature. And so what I would do is I would go in, I'd make a little salad, and then I would get mustard, soy sauce, and a little bit of maple syrup, and I make my own dressing, because all their dressings were crap.
So they had some maple syrup there that you could grab. Okay.
They had all that stuff.
Okay.
So I would just make my own, and then I poured over that, and I'd start with that. It was really hard. The first two buffets they had were all meat stations. And one of the days they brought out a pig, like a literal pig that had just been like roasted. And Hope, who is so empathetic and so emotional, we went down and we were eating, and she was all quiet and she had tears coming down her face. And I said, Hope, what's wrong? And she said, I feel just so bad for that pig. And of course they laid it out there and they cut the head off, and then they put the head there so it was facing out. And it's just, to me, it's incredible how conditioned most people have come to just accepting of just eating dead animals, right? Sentient things.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah.
But anyway, so but then we got into, they had a great potato bar where they had really clean just potatoes with nothing on them. They had steak fries. They had a vegetarian lineup where they had brown rice, white rice. Every day they had an amazing dal, D-A-H-L, with this lentil dish, one of my favorites in the world. They had steamed vegetables that were nothing, but they didn't have oil, they didn't have butter. So we were able to make it work. I will say that you always got to ask, like, what's in this and what's in this? So it's vegetarian, but is it oil free? Does it have butter? So one of the mistakes that I made, second night, I had a bunch of dal on top of my brown rice. And about 20 minutes later, my stomach was just it was kind of doing circles. And so I knew something wasn't right. So I went to the sous chef and I said, hey, does that dal have any animal products in it? And he said, yes, it had ghee.
Oh, okay. Is
ghee, which is basically clarified butter, right?
Yeah, Ghee.
Ghee. And so, I haven't had anything like that in years and years and years. So I asked him, is there any way that you can make that in the future without using the ghee or the butter? And he said, absolutely. So sorry. I said, no, it's okay, but that would be wonderful. So for the rest of the cruise, he made the dal and everything else on that vegetarian without any butter or ghee or things of that nature.
Really? For the whole thing?
For the whole thing. For the whole thing. Yeah. And I was so impressed with him and his curiosity and what we were doing. So, for example, there were a couple mornings where we decided to splurge and go to a fancier restaurant where we would sit down and got served. And so he also happened to be one of the chefs that oversaw one of these little restaurants. And so he made us avocado toast that didn't have the cheese or the egg that was typically in it, on a nice whole grain toast that he found. He made pancakes that weren't the buttermilk pancakes on the menu, but were vegan. And I basically told him the day before, hey, could you create some vegan pancakes? He's like, sure. Can you tell me how do I do that? And of course I told him because I do it every Sunday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He did a reasonable job. It was a little too heavy in I think it was the baking soda. It was just like, but
were they too fluffy?
They weren't too fluffy, but they're a little too much like salt or something.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And then every morning, whether it was there at this special little restaurant or at the garden, I always did oatmeal with 2 bananas, mango, kiwi, berries. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So breakfast.
I always feel like breakfast might be the easiest because there are oats, because I'm sure they had cereals, fruit.
Yeah.
Maybe even some tofu or some salads, because I know different cultures eat salads for breakfast. And so I'm sure that, but we're like where I'm feeling the pinch a little bit are like the lunches and the dinners, but it sounds like the dal and the baked potatoes.
Well, the dal, baked potatoes, the salads. They also had, I'm sure everybody has been to a restaurant or a hotel restaurant where they actually have little mini stations. They'll make pancakes for you. They'll make pasta. They'll make omelets. They make pizzas. So they had a pasta and a pizza bar where you could order your own, and they make the pasta right in front of you, and you tell them what ingredients to put in it, right?
Excellent.
And what sauces you wanted in it. If you wanted a plain marinara, or you wanted a meat sauce, or a what's the green made with basil?
Oh, like a pesto.
Pesto or a
Yeah.
pesto, right?
Yeah.
So you could customize that, and the kids love doing that for breakfast and lunch, and then our kids love pizza, and so we got the cleanest Plantstrong pizzas with just this really nice crust. It probably wasn't whole grain, but it did not have eggs. It didn't have dairy, with a nice marinara sauce, and then broccoli, onions, mushrooms, sun-dried tomatoes, right? Whatever you wanted, they put it on there. And then it was done in about, they brought it out of the oven in 10 minutes. So delicious. So between those little, mini stations for the pasta and the pizza, that little potato bar, the vegetarian lineup, the oatmeal, we were good. Now, we also wanted to go out twice for some special sit-down dinners with the family. And so we did that. And what we did is we went there the day before and pre-ordered off their menu so they could make the dishes to our satisfaction.
Excellent.
So Jill and I, for example, one night we did stuffed bell peppers.
Yum.
That just had tofu and spinach inside instead of the feta cheese and, the meat and all that stuff.
And were these restaurants that were off ship? Were these excursion restaurants?
These weren't. No, this is on the ship.
These were all on the ship. Okay.
These were all on the ship. And then when we did the excursions, basically the excursions were no more than 3.5 hours. And there was really only one time that I can think of where we were like, okay, we need something to eat. And it was in the little town of Skagway, where we took this train ride. It was called the White Pass train ride. And it went up several thousand feet through the mountains, through the waterfalls, through tunnels. It was like you were inside the mountains. It was so insane, to where the Klondike gold rush was.
Wow.
And so we did that. And when we got back, we were really hungry. So we found a little Indian restaurant called Bombay India, and we got some garlic naan. We got some, we got an Indian chickpea dish, some waters, and I think that was it.
Yeah. And one of my fears with these types of vacations, there was when I first went plant-based in 2009, one of the first trips that I took was to Germany, and it was, for certain parts of Germany, the whole Bavaria region was a challenge. Other parts of Germany were super easy, like Heidelberg, those areas, because they're younger towns, they're university towns, and so they had quite the robust vegan option array of restaurants and things. But there were a few times where I was like, I'm gonna get hangry if I don't get something. So did the kids ever get hangry at any time on this trip, or you? I'm blaming the kids, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes with vacations and being out, and we all did. But for the most part, our family did an amazing job of with the cruise, with all the excursions. I mean, the reality is, everybody, that it was very luxurious, right? I mean, I feel so fortunate that we were able to do this. And your decisions are, well, which excursion do we want to do today? Which restaurant do we want to go to? What do we want to eat? Do we want to go for a swim or workout? Which show should we go to tonight? It's like, it's such a departure from reality, where you don't have to make these really crazy, difficult decisions. As soon as I got home, it was like, okay, the car broke down. This is true. Car broke down. refrigerator, the ice maker wasn't working. It's 102 degrees. Our downstairs AC unit went out. What else? Our pool, we got a little pool in the backyard, turned into a swamp. So then all of a sudden, we got to deal with reality and all the crap that reality throws at you.
Yeah. So it sounds like your biggest takeaways for travel, in any kind of travel, is what, besides the lessons that I'm getting from this are obviously preparation. Always have something on hand, always have fruit, always have snacks, always have sandwiches, and then ask.
Absolutely. Let's see. I have a whole thing that I wrote up, a blog several years ago. It's an acronym. And because I haven't thought about it. I can't even remember what the acronym is off the top of my head, but it's basically all those things. It's look at the menu, see what you can eat. Don't be afraid to ask. And then also always bring your own food, right? Always bring your own food. And Carrie, like one of the things we would do is when we were leaving the restaurant, I told the kids, always grab a banana and always they made these great whole grain walnut cranberry rolls. And so I said, and always grab 2 or 3 of those walnut cranberry rolls.
Yep. Before you answer Johanna's question that I popped up there on the screen, I think another lesson that I'm kind of taking from this is being flexible as well. I mean, you said a couple times like, yeah, that probably had a little oil in it, or I don't know that pizza crust was whole grain, and you went with it. And to the extent that you are able to do that from a dietary and health component, aspect of your life, I feel like flexibility, not abandoning ship, so to speak, pun intended, but being able to allow yourself to just be flexible in the moment will help you have a great time and stay relaxed. And it might help your family too, so that you're not completely stressed out that it has to be perfect every time you walk up to the buffet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like being flexible. We can control what we can control. And then after that, I don't, there's certain lines I won't cross, right? When it comes to animal products and animal byproducts. Obviously, I got caught by surprise by the ghee that was in the dal dish. And that happens once every blue moon. But I do see that Lori Kordowich has chimed in here with the acronym, and that's right. It's FAB, right?
Oh, I thought she was just complimenting this.
No.
Facebook Live.
FAB is the acronym, and F is figure out what you can eat. A is ask for what you want. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want. And then the B is bring your own food. So I was very, very close. Yeah.
You are also fab, by the way, Rip. You're
fab, baby.
You're fab.
So I want to, we can keep, I'd love to take questions and stuff like that, but I also want to let people know that Alaska was actually purchased from Russia in 1869. Okay. And so it was a territory, 1869. A lot of people, when America purchased it from Russia in 1869, thought that we were stupid. Like, who's ever going to use all this land? It's out in the middle of nowhere. Guess how much we bought it from Russia for?
Oh, here we go. I know. I'm going to say something ridiculously low, like $50,000 or something.
7.2 million. which I mean, considering. So listen to this.
Lori, Alaska, why didn't you get my back on that one?
Alaska is so big, it is 1/5 the size of the United States. 1/5 the size of the United States. And in fact, Carrie, when we were in Skagway, we saw a t-shirt shop. There's t-shirt shops everywhere. A t-shirt shop, and it had a t-shirt, and on the front, it had the state of Alaska, right? And then inside the state of Alaska, they had a little itty bitty state of Texas. And it said Texas is so darn cute.
Okay. I may have purchased that one if I would have seen that one.
Oh, I should have. I don't know why I didn't. Yeah.
Everything is not bigger in Texas.
So it became a territory in 1869. But when do you think it officially became a state?
Not that I'm Googling right now.
No,
Hello.
no.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not Googling, but I am going to wait for somebody to pop a year into. So 1869 is when it became a territory. I'll say like 18. No, it was in the 1900s that it became a state, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I'll give you that hint.
Like I'll say like 1905.
You're close.
1950.
1959, actually.
Oh my God. I wasn't close at all.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
you had a 5 in there, though. And it
Yeah, I had a 19 and a 5.
1959. Isn't that crazy? 1959, Alaska became a state. And it's funny how when you meet, and what I have discovered is that these people, these wonderful people that live in Alaska, they're a different breed. And they're there typically for a specific reason. Like they want to get away from the hustle and the bustle, and they really appreciate the outdoors. And I just 1959. I mean, that almost seems like yesterday, right?
Yeah, and because I try to stay as far away from politics and things like that as I possibly can, I'm wondering, and I probably should know this, but did our native Alaskans and the indigenous people, were they happy about that? Were they not? Did they like being their own territory of the United States? And I still don't really know truly the difference between a territory and a state. I know Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, but like I don't know all the nuances that go along with that from a political perspective, but I don't know. Do you have any insight?
Well, no, and I didn't get down and deep with some of the locals, but one of the gentlemen that was operating the tram ride up to one of the top of the mountains that we went to in Juneau was one of the three Indian tribes in that area. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned how his father's nickname was Killer Whale. They're so in touch with nature and wildlife. And they said, like, whenever they would kill a deer, they would say a prayer and thank it for providing us with food. And he talked about how the year after his father passed away, 5 killer whales came up this fjord into Juneau and then went back, and they've done it every year since. So he got all emotional and teary when he was telling us the story. So
this Kelly Cotman, who's watching right now, I'm not sure, Kelly, if you're a she, he, or he, him, or she, her, he, him, but was born in the territory of Alaska in 1958, and their birth certificate makes no mention of it being a territory at the time. So,
wow, well,
yeah, very cool.
How about that? So I also want to share a couple other little things. So we also went and we saw several glaciers. We saw 3. One, we saw the Hubbard Glacier that was just outside Seward. We also went and got off at Juneau, and after we did the tram ride up to the top, we took a little bus about 30 miles away to the Mendenthal Glacier. And these glaciers are wild. It's basically like a frozen river, right? That's kind of coming down the mountainside, but it's very, very wide. It's like a river, basically, that's turned into this like ice and snow mixture. And it's got this crazy blue glow to it. And the reason is it's so compact and so pressurized that the only light waves that can get out are the blue ones. right? It
Hmm.
was really wild. And then right next to the Mendenthal Glacier was this incredible, like 500-foot waterfall called Nuggets Falls. It was coming down off the mountain right next to it into the ocean. So just wild. And then the most spectacular glacier we saw was called the Das Glacier, DAAS, I believe is the spelling. And we had to go up this fjord, probably 20 miles, this very, very narrow kind of like almost like river. And everywhere we looked, there were like these huge blocks of blue ice that had broken off from the glacier that was upstream. And then on these like blocks of ice, there were sea lions and otters and stuff hanging out. There was just virgin forests on both sides and mountains that just went straight up, waterfalls. It was the most spectacular, to me, part of the trip was going up this fjord to this glacier and then turning around about 100 yards from the glacier.
Was this on the cruise ship, or was this a separate excursion on a smaller boat?
This was on the cruise ship.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm trying to envision them turning it around. And
well, I really should share photos with everybody. And I'm sorry I didn't load those in earlier.
Yeah, Marley wants to know if you did any kind of a helicopter tour.
We didn't do a helicopter tour. Marley, I am very frugal, and each one of these expeditions was ridiculously expensive. The helicopter tours were like $450 a person. You multiply that by 5, and that adds up in a big old hurry. So we were very picky about which excursions we did, because we didn't want to spend. We kind of had a cap how much we wanted to spend over the 7 days with excursions.
Yeah. Did any of you, swimming family that you are, were any of you ever able to do any kind of a cold plunge or a cold swim in any of the waters?
No, I think the coldest plunge we did was one day one of the pools got down to 81.
Oh, how discomforting. Oh,
I know. No, we didn't. I thought about it one day getting in, but we never did. We should have. That was a mistake. Next time.
Yeah.
Got to make the plunge. We were in Ketchikan, and Ketchikan it's basically the salmon capital of the world. And I learned there are 5 types of salmon, and I'm going to teach you them right now, and you'll never forget them again. So the first one, it rhymes with your thumb. It's called crumb. There's the crumb salmon, right? Okay. Then we have our sockeye, because you poke your eye. Sockeye, got your sockeye salmon.
I've heard of that one.
The biggest of all your fingers. It's the king. So you got your king salmon. Then here, right, you put your ring finger. You got your silver salmon. Okay. And then the last one, you got your pink. Your pinky, you got your pink. All right.
Crumb, sockeye, king, silver, pink.
There you go. Right. You'll never forget it. Maybe you will.
Easy.
So Ketchikan's the capital, the salmon capital of the world. We took a little bus in to go see a lumberjack show. I've always loved like an axe and wood. These guys were so incredible with what they could do with an axe. They did at the very end, they did the log roll where they were running on top of the logs.
Yes.
Insane. Yeah.
I remember watching those on TV as a kid, like ABC Wide World of Sports or something would do. I don't know. Does anybody else remember that? It was like the lumberjack championships or something. But I do remember watching log rolling live on TV, and then to see who could cut down a tree the fastest. And
the other thing that was really wild about the trip was it only rained once, and it was a very light rain for maybe an hour, and that was in Skagway. But Ketchikan is supposed to be the rainiest place in Alaska. It gets over 160 inches of rain per year. Ugh. Now I'm going to ask you another question, Carrie. What
Okay.
do you think is the rainiest place in the world?
Oh, in the world?
Yeah.
Blah. Okay. Clearly I don't know the answer to this, but I'm gonna say Hilo, Hawaii, because I know they also get,
Wow.
yeah.
You're really, it's Kauai. It's Kauai.
Ah, okay.
Kauai,
Okay.
Hawaii. There's a location there. They get over 220 inches of rain a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Really
All
well.
right. So see, I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
as bad as I thought. Just a
Oh,
different island altogether, but that's okay.
Shawnee, I love Shawnee Kennedy. You are throwing in some really great comments here. And everybody, I have been neglecting you, and I apologize. So if there's any questions that we want to throw in here,
Yeah.
but at this time, Carrie,
Yeah.
I do think we need a little commercial break.
Yes, let's take that commercial break.
Yeah.
Let me
Well, let me start off before you do
okay.
anything. So,
Okay.
everybody, I want you to know that Sundays are one of my favorite days of the week. And the reason is because I get to flex my pancake and waffle muscles to my whole family. Everyone looks forward to it. I come back from swim practice, I make them from scratch. And then, depending upon the mood in the house, we'll either do the pancakes or we'll do the waffles. I have found that there is not a commercialized brand out there that has really clean, wonderfully rising, tasty pancakes. Until now. Until now. And we
Wait a minute, Rip. Hang on. I'm going to interrupt this commercial and play some music. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
I can't. But there you go, a little bit. Until now, but now.
Okay, good.
But we now, starting literally, I just got word from Lori, who runs our e-commerce department, that these 3 pancake mixes, right?
Blow you up.
And I'm gonna, they're live on the plantstrongfoods.com website as of 30 minutes ago. So we have our sweet potato and ancient grain pancake and waffle mix. This is for those that are, a little more eclectic and eccentric, right? But I'm telling you, incredible right here. And I'm going to read to you the ingredients because they're so clean and I'm so proud of them. So we have organic wheat grain flours. We've got wheat, spelt, oats, kamut, amaranth, millet, quinoa, sorghum. And then we have organic dates, kiss of dates, organic sweet potato, and then we have a little bit of leavening, cinnamon, and salt.
Oh,
so there you go. That's the sweet potato and ancient grain. We also have our 7-grain pancake and waffle mix, just as clean, although this one is completely salt-free. All right. And I love this, 1 whole grain for every day of the week. Right. And I forgot to say this one on the sweet potato. We say, how high is your stack? And then what is the one thing that everybody's been clamoring for with the cereals? Can you make a gluten-free one? Right.
yes.
We've risen to the occasion. Right. You can stop the clamoring. Here is a gluten-free pancake and waffle mix.
Marley just jumped through the screen.
It is spectacular. The grains that we have in this one are whole oat flour, cassava flour, buckwheat flour, and sorghum flour, right? All gluten-free. I want you to know that I have made every one of these multiple times and they rise perfectly. They brown just the most perfect, beautiful golden brown, bubble up wonderfully so you know exactly when to flip them, and they taste absolutely spectacular. I challenge you to find another commercialized pancake or waffle mix that is as good as ours. Truly, truly, truly. And so just to extend this a little farther, this is 1 pound of the flour mix. You want to add 1 cup of the mix with 1 cup of either water or your plant-based milk of choice. Mix it up and then pour it into the griddle, the waffle iron, you name it. So That is our commercial break. And I am so proud of these little guys here. And this Sunday for Father's Day, you can bet your bottom pancake in the stack I will be making each one of these.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you, Rip, and the entire team who I know, Lori, Jessica, who does a lot of your snackable episodes. The team that's been behind this. Amy shoots a lot of our photography and makes everything look as delicious as it tastes. So congratulations to the entire food team for making this possible. Is this exclusive to plantstrongfoods.com, or might we see this in retail at some point?
No, this is exclusive to plantstrong.com. It's a purely, at this point, D2C play, direct to consumer play.
Okay.
It is so difficult to source all these ingredients, get them at a price that is reasonable, and then for us to keep the lights on, add our margin, and then get them to you at a price where it doesn't break the bank. So if we were to try and get them to retail, and the retailer also added their 35-45% margin, it would be untenable. Yeah.
Good to know. You can buy it directly from the source, everyone.
Yep, there you go.
Seriously, from his kitchen, from that kitchen behind you, whereas I know a lot of testing goes on behind that kitchen. To the source.
Yeah. So, before we go, Carrie, I'd love to know, do people have any specific questions around the Alaska trip, food? I really think that it is, just to sum it up a little bit, Carrie, it's being prepared. It's making sure that you bring food with you on your flights. Check ahead and find out, the restaurants that you're going to be going to, the dining establishments. If you're taking a cruise, these cruise ships are so concerned about customer experience. They will go the extra mile to help you out. Mm-hmm. You just tell them about your dietary preferences, and they will do everything they can to make that happen. And if you find somebody that's a bit of a stick in the mud, just move on and find another person that's got a smile and has the right attitude. Because the one thing we don't want to compromise on is what, Carrie?
Well, we don't want to compromise on our health. Well, yeah, and our convictions, and our integrity, because we, no matter where we are in our Plantstrong journey, we have a certain amount of integrity and self-respect that goes behind every decision that we make. And so, yes, there's a lot of compromises that we won't make when it comes to that. There was a question, and thank you, Lori, for chiming in. And I hadn't had a chance to pop it up yet, but somebody asked if cassava flour came from a coconut, was there oil in it? And so Lori, boom, answered that for us. It comes from the cassava root, and there is no oil in any of our products.
While we got Lori live in the chat room there, Lori, when will people be able to order their Rips Big Bowl cereals again? And as you probably all know, we had this really unfortunate event where our manufacturer that's located in Northern California, the levee broke with all the flooding there, and their factory got flooded out. And so did our ingredients and packaging. So next week, Lori just wrote, woo! Wow. Bring on the pancakes, bring on the big bowl. We're getting Plantstrong.
Yes. I'm going to go back to one of the questions that somebody asked about. Actually, a couple of questions. Before we get to the food question, a common question that we get is, do we ship to Canada?
Yeah. So Shawnee, I take it you're from Canada. I got to take it. I'm going to answer the question, but I have to take a little departure. Okay, Carrie?
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course.
So the cruise ended in Vancouver. Vancouver was so incredible. And what we did, we landed off the cruise ship at 9 a.m. We immediately found a little shop where we could rent bikes. We biked 9 miles around kind of Vancouver. We found a swimming pool that was right next to the ocean, 50-meter, 3-lane, 50-meter pool, and then a big area with slides and just playing for kids. We spent 2 hours there swimming. And then afterwards we finished the bike ride. We actually did go to some little, hamburger joint, and we got veggie dogs and veggie burgers. They were so greasy and oily. Oh my God. But again, we're okay occasionally with that. Do the best you can do. But we also, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, I had Visanto Molina and Carrie, no, not Carrie, and
Corey.
Corey, thank you. Corey Davis on the podcast. They'd written a book about protein. Our flight, we didn't have a flight till midnight that night. And so they offered for us to come by the co-op where they live, this community. And so they have a little unit there. They're one of 31 families that live in this co-op community. And then we ate in this dining room, and each night, 3 different people cooked dinner, and then 3 different people washed the dishes. And it was like this idyllic, just like dreamland. The kids are playing on the big wheels, basketball all over the place. And then you have this community dining room where people can go and eat. And they had rice and beans extravaganza. But Visanto and her husband, Cam, actually started this community 6 years ago. And they said that not everybody was vegan, but now, 6 years later, almost every meal is either vegan or vegetarian.
Wow.
And it just made me think, wow, if more people could live in a community like this, we'd be I think just a much happier, much kind of better group of people,
Yeah.
And the social media, you don't need the social media because everybody's there and everybody's looking to have fun. They had gardens there. We picked fresh raspberries. Everything for the salad just came from the gardens that they had there and up in the greenhouse that was on the roof. It was dreamy.
That does sound dreamy.
That was a big departure from, do we ship to Canada?
No, but we're all shipping ourselves to Canada, to Visanto's front door right now.
But Shawnee, the answer is we do ship to Canada. Unfortunately, the shipping rates are exorbitant. And we apologize about that, but that's just the way it is right now. In the States, we've actually dialed it way back. It's $4.99 per order, which is very, very reasonable. But in Canada, it's not reasonable. I apologize about that.
Yeah.
But we do ship there. Yeah.
So back to the question about the food, I'm looking for it. Oh yeah. And you touched on this with the meals that you made, but suggestions for TSA approved foods to bring on a long flight, and anything that's not liquid. I do know that in your carry-on, I've learned this the hard way a few times. You cannot bring a jar of peanut butter, and you cannot bring a container of hummus on a carry-on. But if that said spread is already in a sandwich or a wrap, it's fine. But you cannot bring a jar. I've packed oatmeal. Even just I've made my own oatmeal, so I'm carrying on like some ungodly container of oatmeal. Or in this desperate pinch, if you get the plain packets, none of the maple syrup, sugar stuff that you see, but you could always bring that. Fruit, as Rip mentioned,
one of the things that Lori Kordowich loves doing is she loves taking the Plantstrong granola with a little applesauce packet, and then pouring the applesauce packet into the granola, stirring that up, and then having that on her flight. I also, everywhere I go, I bring a bag of the Big Bowl cereal. And if I can't find a milk or whatever, I will have apple juice in there. I'll have orange juice in there. I'll just have water in there. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And we've had, if there are any other suggestions, feel free to pop them in. But Johanna making the Warrior Women pucks. Those are like the biscuit, like the bread biscuits, I believe. I might be wrong. They might be the cookies. I'm not sure. Now I'm just making stuff up because that's what I do. As Rip's sidekick, I just make it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lynn Miles has got it right. I mean, she does what I do right there. Let me see if I can hit it. Well,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, a bag of Ritz Big Bowl cereal would travel well. Just get fruit. I ate it with water once. It was fine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sean and my husband and I make wraps a lot, similar to what you did with your family. We'll make spinach and hummus and tofu wraps. I'll even bring like a little block of tofu and cut it up and eat it if I have to. I find it quite easy to come prepared, for a long flight. But again, you cannot bring a container of hummus in your carry-on, and you cannot bring a jar of peanut butter. They do make like the little packets of peanut butter. Or this is actually a funny story that happened to me once. I took some of the PB2 Pure and I put it in a baggie. So you can imagine what that looked like going through the scanner, a plastic clear baggie full of a white powder. That stopped a few TSA agents in their tracks. So of course I'm, there with all my little vegan snacks and so they had to run it through the scanner and it was totally fine. And I think I even had another baggie with some protein powder in it or something to make. But yeah, anything dry is fine.
Yeah. Are you referring to Justine's comment about dry ingredients over 3 ounces are okay?
Yeah. Dry, anything dry, any kind of powders and stuff are fine.
I will say that, and maybe you guys are familiar with Robbie Barbero with Mastering Diabetes. I just interviewed him again, and we'll probably be airing that sometime in the next couple of weeks. But he was on the podcast, I think in 2019, and he's a type 1 diabetic, and he is very much a fruitarian, greenitarian, meaning literally his diet is comprised of fruits and green leafies. As a type 1 diabetic, he has found that his body performs best on fruits and green leafies. And when he travels, and I'm not exaggerating, he will take a huge box like that will fit in an overhead bin, barely. And in that box, he will have plantains, bananas. He will have grapefruits, kiwis, passion fruit, kumquats, you name it. He's got mangoes to the moon. And he probably goes through 8 to 10 pounds of fruit a day. Easy. Yeah.
Karen, do you have to pack your food separately from your carry-on? No. I mean, again, it depends on what you're taking with you. I'm sure, Rip, you had all of your sandwiches in your carry-on bags or in your backpacks.
Yeah. I did. And most of these airlines are going to be they've gotten to be sticklers about, you can only have 2 carry-on bags on the airplane, little backpack, and then a little roller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are baked potatoes safe to be out of the fridge for long periods of time? I have found them to be safe. I've actually even air fried. I've made my own kind of air fries to take with me on flights too, where I've cut up my baked potato the night before and put it in the air fryer. So I just carry on a bag of air fried potatoes, and those are perfect.
Oh, I find potatoes, like Carrie, when I was training for triathlons, I would take, potatoes in my back pockets of my bike, and they'd sit back there sometimes for 3 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
And they taste remarkable. So I think potatoes are a wonderful idea and travel very, very well.
Yeah. Lynn had some fruit confiscated going to Hawaii and California. I think, of course you have to be careful. Hawaii's different.
Yeah. The agricultural issues there. We actually were Hope had a nectarine that she was trying to bring into Vancouver, and the whole family got pulled aside. We had to go through agricultural customs because of one little nectarine.
Yeah.
that she declared. So yeah, when you're going across a border or even into Hawaii, they're really specific about bringing in any outside agriculture.
Yeah. But like a sandwich is fine. I think it is just more of the fruit and things because of pesticides that might not be on particular islands, or, just plants that are native to certain places, but might not be propagating on in other places. So yeah. There are some things that you have to look out for, but
Gary,
yeah.
I think it's time for us to wrap this up, but this has been wonderful. Love this Plantstrong family and all of your interest and curiosity with everything that we're doing. Thank you guys so much. Carrie, what do you got? You got a vacation planned this summer at all besides, what you're doing?
Well, next weekend I'll be in North Carolina because this is the year that me and all of my girlfriends turn 50. And so we're doing a girls' weekend in North Carolina next weekend. So I don't know if you can call that a vacation or not. It's going to actually probably be like an ultra marathon, not literally, but figuratively. So, a bunch of 50-year-olds doing a slumber party. And no, nothing major, nothing major planned as far as big trips go other than that. I live in the summertime. I'm in Oregon. And so I feel like every day is a bit of an adventure here. If you could even carve out an hour and a half, and this goes with no matter where you live, I will say this, even if you can carve out an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever you can to get outside and just walk and get some fresh air, you feel like you're on vacation. So no major, thank you, Shawnee, no major trips. Brian, thank you. I am in the 50+ club. Somebody asked how my marathon went a couple weeks ago. Sadly, it didn't go well. I didn't finish it. And here's, this is I shouldn't have gotten into this, but I woke up the day feeling fine, feeling absolutely fine. And Rip, as an athlete, I know you can relate to this. Here's the problem. My body felt great, but I wasn't nervous. I wasn't excited. I wasn't anything. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm so calm that this will be easy. Well, by the halfway point, my brain was so not into it, Rip, that I was like, I don't even want to do this for another 13 miles. So rather than injure myself, because I have nothing to prove at this point in my life, I just said, you know what?
I'm good.
And I hopped on a shuttle bus. I hopped on a shuttle bus and I said, is that bus going back to the start line? And they said, it sure is. And I was like, hold that bus. And I'm totally fine with it. And
well, good. I'm glad you are. And I just love the fact that every time you show up, it's another learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so what is your big takeaway from that?
At this age, my big takeaway is that you really, really have to listen to all parts of your body, because physically I probably could have kept going, but I could not get myself there. There was no second gear to go into. So I was just in this blah state. And to this moment, I can't assess, because that's never happened to me before. I always sort of get up for my races, so to speak. And I just had nothing. And I think it's part of being in the 50+ club right now, quite honestly. Like every day I really don't know what my hormones are doing at this point. And so that just happened to be a very, very low day. And I saw it as a chance to just go, okay, this is what it was today. It's fine. Let's get back on the bus. Let's go back to the start and let's cheer for all my other friends that were racing. My husband had a fantastic half marathon. I had 2 girlfriends running the full. They both crushed it. And so, no harm, no foul, really. I learned to just be grateful for what my body can do on any given moment. And that's something that we should all be grateful for. It wasn't training. It wasn't fitness. That was all there. It was up here, and it just is what it was that day.
Well, everybody in the comments completely supports you. in
Thank you.
your
Yeah.
decision, and great
Totally.
listening to your body. And good for you for running when you felt like it and stopping when you felt like it.
Yeah. I don't recommend doing that every day, but yeah.
So with that, let me just say, everybody, I hope you guys, we'll see you. We'll see you probably next Friday and maybe the Friday after and after that. But, if you go on vacation, keep it fab, right? Figure out what you can eat, ask for what you want, bring your own food. You can make it happen. Keep it plant strong. And remember, these little bad boys and girls are now available. I'd love to hear what you think. Shoot us a note in the chat or comment section of Plant Strong Foods and let us know if these aren't the best pancakes and waffles you ever had. With that, you guys, keep it real, keep it plant strong, and have a great Friday. Carrie, over and out. See ya.
Over and out. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend.